Most people hear the same advice about Social Security their entire lives. Wait as long as you can. Delay it to 70. Only desperate people take it early. It sounds smart. It sounds responsible. And on paper, it even sounds correct. But then people actually retire, and reality quietly rewrites the rule book. Because once the paycheck stops, something changes. Not just financially, but emotionally. Suddenly, every expense feels louder. Every market drop feels personal. Every withdrawal feels like a decision you might regret later. That's when many retirees discover something unexpected. The people who feel the calmest, the people who don't constantly second-guess their spending, the people who actually enjoy their retirement. A surprising number of them started Social Security in their 60s. Not because they didn't understand the math, but because they understood life. Smart retirees don't treat Social Security as a single decision in isolation. They see it as one piece of a much bigger system, one that includes health, stress, markets, taxes, and time. And when you look at it that way, claiming earlier often stops looking reckless and starts looking strategic. Almost nobody talks about, honestly, the emotional cost of drawing down your savings. When retirees delay Social Security, they're usually told, just live off your investments until then. That sounds simple, but emotionally, it's not. Watching your account balance go down, especially in the early years of retirement, creates a quiet background anxiety. Even if the math says you're fine, even if the plan says it's normal. There's a difference between knowing something intellectually and feeling okay about it every single month. Smart retirees understand that peace of mind has value, and Social Security provides something investments can't always guarantee, a check that shows up no matter what. Markets can drop, interest rates can change, unexpected expenses can appear out of nowhere, but Social Security keeps coming. That steady income does something powerful. It reduces pressure. Every dollar from Social Security is one less dollar you have to pull from savings. That means fewer forced withdrawals during bad market years, less sequence of returns risk, more flexibility when life doesn't go according to plan. Instead of hoping the market cooperates, retirees create breathing room. And that breathing room often matters more than maximizing a future benefit.
Another reason smart retirees claim in their 60s is timing. Not financial timing, but life timing. Money is not equally valuable at every age. A dollar at 62 can be very different from a dollar at 82. In your 60s, you're often healthier, more mobile, more curious, more willing to travel, explore, and say yes. Waiting until your late 60s or 70s to increase income assumes that life will line up perfectly later. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Smart retirees don't ignore longevity, but they also don't assume it. They look at their family history, their current health, their energy levels, and they ask a quiet but honest question. Would I rather have this income now while I can fully use it, or later when my world might be smaller? That's not pessimism, that's realism. There's also a major misunderstanding about what taking Social Security early actually means. People imagine it as giving something up, but smart retirees see it differently. They see it as shifting where income comes from. Instead of pulling heavily from investments early, they let Social Security do part of the work. That allows their portfolio to grow, or at least stabilize, longer. It's not about squeezing every possible dollar out of the system. It's about building a retirement that feels livable, not fragile. Another quiet benefit of claiming in your 60s is confidence. When retirees have guaranteed income coming in, they spend differently. Not recklessly, but comfortably. They stop asking, "Can I afford this?" and start asking, "Do I want this?" That shift is subtle, but powerful. Without income, retirees often underspend out of fear. They delay trips, they skip experiences, they hold back, not because they have to, but because uncertainty makes them cautious.
Social Security removes some of that hesitation. It creates permission. And permission matters more in retirement than people expect. There's also a tax angle that smart retirees pay close attention to. By claiming Social Security earlier, some retirees reduce how much they need to withdraw from tax-deferred accounts in the early years. That can help smooth out taxes over time. Instead of large withdrawals later, when required minimum distributions kick in, they spread income more evenly across years. This isn't about avoiding taxes completely, it's about controlling them. And control is a recurring theme among retirees who feel secure. They don't want the biggest possible benefit on paper. They want fewer surprises. Another reason early claiming works for some retirees is flexibility. Social Security income allows retirees to be selective. They can work part-time without pressure. They can turn down stressful work. They can choose projects instead of needing paychecks. Ironically, having guaranteed income often leads retirees to work less, not more, but on their own terms. They're not chasing money, they're choosing engagement, and that's a very different experience. Perhaps the biggest reason smart retirees take Social Security in their 60s is this. They don't believe retirement is something to optimize. They believe it's something to live. The obsession with waiting, maximizing, delaying, it all assumes that life is a spreadsheet. But retirement is messy, emotional, unpredictable. The smartest retirees aren't careless, they're intentional. They understand trade-offs, they accept them, and they choose the version of retirement that gives them stability now, not just theoretical gains later. That doesn't mean claiming early is always the right move. It means it's not the wrong move by default. And that distinction changes everything. There's a reason delaying Social Security feels safer on paper. You're told the checks get bigger. You're told it's a guaranteed return. You're told you're protecting your future self. But what rarely gets discussed is this. Delaying doesn't remove risk, it moves it. And most retirees don't realize where that risk actually goes. When you delay Social Security, you're not waiting in a vacuum. You're funding those years somehow. That funding usually comes from investments, which means the market becomes responsible for carrying your lifestyle during the most fragile phase of retirement, the very beginning. This is where something called sequence of returns risk quietly enters the picture. It sounds technical, but the idea is simple. If markets perform poorly early in retirement and you're withdrawing from your portfolio to cover living expenses, the damage can be permanent, even if markets recover later. Early losses plus withdrawals create a hole that compounding struggles to fill. Now here's the uncomfortable truth. Delaying Social Security increases your exposure to that risk. You're depending more heavily on your investments at the exact moment they're most vulnerable. Smart retirees understand this trade-off. They don't ask, which option gives me the highest monthly check at age 70? They ask, which option protects my entire system when it matters most? For many, that answer includes claiming earlier. Because Social Security acts like a stabilizer. When markets dip, you don't have to sell as much. When volatility spikes, you're not forced to react. When fear shows up, you have something solid underneath you. It's not dramatic, it's quiet protection. Another thing that gets overlooked is how retirement spending actually works. People assume expenses stay flat. They don't. Spending often follows a curve. Higher in the early years, travel, experiences, projects. Lower in the middle years, routines settle in. Higher again later, healthcare, support, assistance. Delaying Social Security assumes that higher income later will always be more useful. But for many retirees, income earlier matches spending reality better. Smart retirees align income with life, not with theoretical projections. They know that a dollar spent on mobility, memories, and freedom in your 60s often delivers more value than a larger dollar later when options may be limited. There's also a psychological shift that happens when guaranteed income starts flowing. Retirees stop seeing themselves as drawing down. They start seeing themselves as earning again. That distinction changes behavior. Instead of guarding every expense, they budget confidently. Instead of fearing depletion, they manage cash flow. Instead of worrying about running out, they focus on living within a system. Confidence leads to better decisions, and better decisions often matter more than perfect optimization. Another major factor is health uncertainty. No one likes to talk about it, but smart retirees don't ignore it either. Delaying Social Security is essentially a bet that you'll live long enough to collect the higher benefit long enough to make it worthwhile. For some people, that bet makes sense. For others, it doesn't. And the problem isn't just lifespan, it's health span. Living longer doesn't always mean living better. A larger check at 75 doesn't help much if energy, independence, or freedom are already reduced. Smart retirees ask a more grounded question. When will this income improve my life the most? Often, the answer is earlier. There's also flexibility to consider. Once you claim Social Security, you lock in a base layer of income. That base gives you options. You can adjust spending without panic. You can weather emergencies without selling assets at the wrong time. You can even help your family without destabilizing your plan. Delaying removes flexibility early in exchange for certainty later. And certainty later isn't always the priority people think it is. Another overlooked point, Social Security is inflation adjusted. That matters. It means the income you start earlier grows over time. People often fixate on the starting amount and forget the long game. An earlier benefit that grows steadily can still become meaningful later, especially when it's been supporting you the entire time. Smart retirees don't just look at the size of the check, they look at how it integrates into everything else. And then there's peace, real peace. Not the kind you calculate, the kind you feel.
Retirees who rely entirely on investments early often live with a low-grade tension. They check balances, they track markets, they hesitate. Those with guaranteed income sleep differently. They don't win every spreadsheet scenario, but they win something harder to quantify: stability. That's why many financially savvy retirees, people who understand the math, still choose to claim in their 60s. Not because they're uninformed, but because they've zoomed out. They're not optimizing a number, they're designing a life. Now here's the part that often gets misunderstood. Claiming Social Security earlier isn't always the right move, and smart retirees know that too. They're not reacting emotionally. They're not following blanket advice. They're making a deliberate choice based on their situation. So when does waiting actually make sense? One clear case is longevity confidence. Some retirees have strong health, strong genetics, and strong reason to believe they'll live well into their 80s or 90s. Not just live, but live independently. For them, delaying can act like longevity insurance. A higher guaranteed income later protects against the risk of outliving assets. It's not about maximizing, it's about durability. Smart retirees who delay usually do it because they don't need the income early. Their portfolio can support them comfortably. They're not stressed about withdrawals. They're not selling assets in bad markets. They delay because their system is already stable. That's an important distinction. Another reason waiting can make sense is spousal planning. For married couples, the decision isn't individual, it's shared. When the higher earner delays, the surviving spouse often benefits from a larger lifelong income later. That can be powerful. Smart couples don't look at Social Security as my check. They see it as survivor protection, especially when one spouse expects to outlive the other. In those cases, delaying can reduce future financial stress for the person left behind. That's not about winning the math. It's about protecting someone you care about.
Taxes also matter. Some retirees delay managing tax exposure. If you're still working in your early 60s or drawing heavily from taxable income, claiming Social Security can push more of your benefits into taxable territory. Delaying gives you room to shift money strategically. You can convert tax-deferred accounts, you can smooth out your income, you can reduce future tax pressure. Smart retirees don't look at Social Security in isolation. They look at how it interacts with everything else. Now here's where the real wisdom comes in. The smartest retirees don't ask which age is best. They ask which decision gives me the fewest regrets. Regret doesn't come from the size of the check. It comes from stress, from restriction, from missed years. Some people regret claiming too early because they truly needed more income later. Others regret waiting because they sacrificed freedom during the years they could have enjoyed it most. Both can happen. That's why smart retirees focus on alignment, not optimization. They align income with lifestyle. They align timing with health. They align security with peace of mind. They accept that no decision is perfect, but a decision that fits you rarely feels wrong. Another thing smart retirees understand: you don't retire once, you retire in phases. Early retirement is about adjustment. Middle retirement is about rhythm. Late retirement is about support. Social Security plays a different role in each phase. Claiming earlier often stabilizes the first phase. Delaying often strengthens the last phase. Neither is automatically superior. What matters is which phase needs the most reinforcement for you. And here's the part no spreadsheet can measure: confidence. Retirees who feel confident spend better. They enjoy it more. They make clearer decisions. Fear is expensive. It leads to underspending, missed opportunities, and constant second-guessing. Smart retirees don't build plans that look impressive on paper but feel fragile in real life. They build plans so they can live inside, plans that let them wake up without anxiety, plans that don't require perfect markets, plans that don't collapse if life goes slightly off script. Social Security, whether claimed earlier or later, is just one lever. The mistake is treating it like the goal. It's not. The goal is a retirement that feels stable, flexible, and human. That's why some retirees take Social Security in their 60s and never look back. That's why others wait, confidently, knowing it fits their long-term picture. Both can be smart. What's not smart is following advice that ignores your reality. The best retirement decisions aren't loud. They're calm, they're personal, and they're made with clarity, not fear. And when retirees make decisions that match who they are, they don't spend retirement wondering what if. They spend it living.